Comets are one of the most extraordinary signs in the heavens. Aristotle gave them the common name comet from the Greek kometes, which means wearing long hair. And indeed, as you can see from this picture, it does look like someone wearing long hair. But what does a comet really stand for? What's the significance? The only way we can know that is to ask the Creator. Well, we do have an example where the Creator told us. He was talking to Job, and he said, "Have you entered the treasury of snow, or have you seen the treasury of hail, which I have reserved for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war?" Comets are frozen clusters of gases and ice, along with some rocks and dust. But there's a lot of frozen ice, just like snow and hail. God told Job 5,000 years ago this was for the time of trouble. So we have an idea from the Creator now what was his original intent for a comet. Well, we had a very extraordinary comet recently go by Jupiter. In 1993 of March 24th, Carol and Eugene Shoemaker, along with David Levy, were working at the Palomar Observatory in California, and they were examining photographic plates to look for objects in the sky, and they saw what seemed to be a squashed object, and it was orbiting Jupiter. And they found out it was a comet. Never before had anyone seen a comet orbiting a planet. This is very unusual. Comets always orbit the sun. Apparently the gravity of Jupiter had captured the orbit and sucked it into its own, took it away from the sun, and it was orbiting Jupiter. What was most alarming and fascinating was they determined it was going to impact Jupiter by its trajectory. And here a picture a year later from the Hubble Space Telescope shows 18 of what was to be 21 fragments. The comet 2 years earlier in 1992 had passed so close to Jupiter that it broke up. And now all these fragments were headed hopelessly to be sucked into Jupiter. Never before had anyone observed two solar system bodies colliding, and especially a comet. So every telescope on Earth was trained toward this stellar event. On July 16th, 1994, the first fragment impacted Jupiter. And you can see from this picture from the Hubble Space Telescope, they called it Fragment A. On July 16th, that's a significant date because at 2200 hours in Israel, it becomes the 17th, which is the 9th of Av. The first fragment actually impacted Jupiter 4 hours into the 9th of Av fast. This is a very significant day for the Jews and for Israel. It's not a good day. It's an ominous day. And for a comet to make a fantastic event that's never before been witnessed to happen on this day is very significant. Here's what the Mishnah says. This is the Jewish oral law that was written in the 2nd century. Here's what they say about this day. 5 misfortunes befell our fathers on the 9th of Av. On the 9th of Av, it was decreed that our fathers should not enter the promised land. The temple was destroyed the first and second time. Bethar was captured, and the city of Jerusalem was plowed up. So 2,000 years ago, they had 5 misfortunes. Well, we have a few more to add to that list today. And let's look at the historical significance for Israel for the 9th of Av. It started in 1440 BCE when the evil report from 10 of the 12 spies caused Israel to wander in the wilderness for 40 years. That was on the 9th of Av, and that has started a whole string of desolations for Israel for this date. In 586 BCE, the Babylonians destroyed the first holy temple on the 9th of Av. And in 70 Common Era, the Romans destroyed the second Holy Temple on the 9th of Av. In 135 Common Era, Bethar, the stronghold of Bar Kokhba, fell, causing the Jews to be dispersed out of Israel for 1,748 years until they started coming back in 1883. That was on the 9th of Av. In 136 Common Era, Rome began to erect a pagan city on the site of the temple. In 1096, the First Crusades began on this date. In 1290, the Jews were expelled from England on the 9th of Av. In 1306, the Jews were expelled from France on the 9th of Av. And in 1492, the Jews were expelled from Spain on the 9th of Av. Amazing everything that happens on this date. In 1648, Chmielnicki massacred tens of thousands of Polish Jews on this date. In 1914, declarations for World War I began on this date. In 1942, the plans for the annihilation of Jews were drafted on this date. And recently, in 2005, guess when the Jews were removed from the Gaza Strip? The day after the 9th of Av. This is a very ominous day for Israel. It speaks of bad things, and for this comet to impact Jupiter on this date is very significant. This is an infrared image of fragments A and C as they impacted Jupiter at the bottom left-hand corner, and up the middle right-hand corner is the great red spot. Here's an ultraviolet image of 3 of the impacts at the lower bottom. And what's significant about this is you can see the auroral crown that Jupiter has on its north pole. Jupiter is representative of the Messiah. It's the largest planet. It's always represented the greatest deity of any culture. And it actually is meant to represent the Messiah. And here we have the crown, just like a crown of thorns. And here he's taken 3 impacts, and it's in a line with the stripes. Very amazing. Here's another ultraviolet image in color. There's at least 9 impacts available, viewable at the bottom of the picture. The dark spot in the middle is the moon low as it's crossing the planet. And here's a beautiful picture showing the impacts of at least 5 of them as they just perfectly lined up below the great red spot. What's significant is if you look at the upper right hand corner, there's a really big impact spot. That was made by Fragment G. Fragment G just happened to be the 7th fragment. It's about 2/3 of a mile in diameter, which is 1 kilometer. It's traveling about 140,000 miles an hour. And when it impacted Jupiter, it made a big splash. And here's a fireball that was seen from it from Earth. And here's a close-up of the impact. That brown circle is as big as the planet Earth, or bigger. What would this do if it hit Earth? An impact this big? Well, here it is. It's superimposed on the Earth. The initial impact obviously covers a whole more than a continent, but the lighter brown area covers the whole planet. It would be totally devastating. This is for a 2/3 mile diameter chunk traveling 140,000 miles an hour. For this to happen was such an excitement for all the astronomers. They'd never witnessed anything like this before or since. Here's a picture of Jupiter before any of the impacts. It's been mapped out onto a flat surface. And then after the impacts, here it is. You can see there's 21 fragments, and they're all in a line underneath the great red spot. All 21 of the fragments are very easily visible here. And so it's like Jupiter took another stripe. Another stripe. The Messiah is taking it for Israel, it seems. Another interesting thing about this event, Jupiter was located in Virgo, the constellation Virgo. We're told in Revelations that Virgo represents the woman, or Israel. So Jupiter in Virgo represents Israel. This is very significant. We know in the ninth of Av represents Israel. So we're getting a little bit of picture of what is the true meaning of this event. Jupiter was bombarded for 7 days, exactly 1 week. So we have 7 coming up again. We know that the 7th fragment was the biggest hit. It was for 7 days it was bombarded by 21 fragments, 3 times 7. What is the significance of this comet? Can we get an interpretation of all this? Well, Comet Shoemaker-Levy is a sign for these last days. A comet is a sign of trouble and war, as we've seen. So we know that's what that means. Jupiter represents a Messiah, the protector. Jupiter has such a massive gravitational pull that it sucks in stray asteroids and comets and keeps them from entering the inner solar system and affecting the Earth. So it protects, just like the Messiah protects. Virgo, the constellation that all this took place in, represents the new reborn Israeli nation. The 9th of Av, we've already saw that that's the date of desolation for Israel. Not a good date. And the 21 fragments, let's look at them representing 21 years. And let's see what we get. The interpretation, the Messiah, Jupiter, will continue to protect Israel, Virgo, from the time of trouble, represented by the comet, and desolation, represented by the 9th of Av, for 21 years, 21 fragments. If you add 1994 plus 21 years, you get the year 2015. Could this be what this sign is showing us? It seems to be very significant in talking to Israel, and these dates and the numbers, 7 appearing everywhere. Could 2015 be the final 7-year period, maybe? Let's look at a prophecy that Gabriel told Daniel. He said 70 weeks, Shabuah, that's the Hebrew word for weeks, are determined for your people and for your holy city, to finish the transgression. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, or Shabuah. We've already used up 69 of these 70 weeks. After 69 weeks, Messiah was appeared and he was cut off. We know that was Yeshua. There's only 1 week left. So to have 1 7-year period left, and we have Jupiter bombarded for 7 days, that's very significant. This could be pointing to this year.